Welcome to the Discovering Your Future podcast, hosted by Jarvis and Lucy from FCC's audio production program. In this podcast, we interview professionals to scope how they navigated their career. Through listening, you will pick up tips about developing professional networks, learn ways to manage your career, and discover pathways to finding purpose in life. It's never too early to begin planning your career path, and it's never too late to make a change. So please, kick back and listen in.
Hello there. Welcome back to another episode of the Discovering Your Future podcast. In today's episode, we have a strong pillar of the community. He's a loving family man, an avid golfer, and a graduate of Tuscarora High School and Frederick Community College. A trailblazer in every field he finds himself, he's the first African-American to be elected to the Frederick County Council, Kavonte Duckett.
Thank you, guys. I'm glad to be here.
It's really a pleasure to have you on. We're honored.
I appreciate you.
We're honored. We're excited. It's truly been a great season, and to cap it off with this, and it's just a great honor.
Thank you for the invite. I'm looking forward to the conversation and the dialogue today. I appreciate both of you and the work that you are not only doing at FCC, but in our community as a whole. So thank you both.
Yes, thank you. So why don't we just, hop right into it, get started. Tell us about your career journey. Where do you think it started for you, and how did you end up where you are today?
I'm a seventh-generation Frederick-tonian, born and raised. I love every aspect of Frederick County. I tell people all the time that Frederick County invested so much in me that I committed my life to giving back to Frederick County. So I say that to say this. Graduated from Tuscarora High School in 2012. After graduation, enrolled here at FCC. Later became the vice president of administration for the Student Government Association, later serving as president of the Student Government Association, which opened countless doors for me. Rewind a little bit. In 2011, I started working for Gary L. Rollins Funeral Home, now known as Rollins Life Celebration Center. And so really gave me my foundation in my career. So have been with the funeral home since 2011, more on a part-time basis now. And so transitioning from the funeral home, then started to work for the Religious Coalition, now Beyond Shelter Frederick. So it's this trend that everywhere I work, they change their names for the better.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was the same name as, if it was Religious Coalition or if it changed or whatever.
Yep, so we changed our name in April. So started with Religious Coalition in 2019 as a case manager. Fast forward in 2020, March of 2020 actually, at the start of an interesting time for us all, took over as director of the Allen P. Linton Jr. Emergency Shelter. Had no experience running a homeless shelter, but my executive director, he really took a chance on me, and he thought that I could do the job. And I guess he was right, because I've been in the seat for 4 years now. So in addition to serving in the shelter in 2022, I decided to run for county council in District 4. I had ran for county council in 2018 at large, was unsuccessful in that race, but I tell people all the time that race really prepared me to be able to run in 2022. It was a loss that I think was necessary. While difficult and tough and heartbreaking, it was really necessary for me to be able to be successful in the role that I am now. So in 2022, I was elected to the Frederick County Council to represent District 4. First person of color to be elected to serve in county government in Frederick County's 275 history. 275-year history. Never thought that, I would be the first to serve in this capacity. But, I really feel that I have been chosen for this time, for this season, to really be a voice for those who have traditionally been left out of the conversation. After being elected, was voted in by my colleagues on the council as vice president of the county council, and have served in that role for the duration of our term thus far. And so my experience, I think, has been unique. But one thing that the funeral home, the shelter, now serving in elected office all have in common, the people have always been at the heart of everything that I do. And so I tell people all the time, the service, giving back unto people is really what gives me a joy and brings happiness to my life. So it's a little bit about my career path. Definitely my family has been the backbone and my biggest supporters in everything that I've done thus far. My wife and my son, Micah especially, I have a 4-year-old, and so I really want to make sure that he sees someone that looks like him serving in capacities that we have traditionally not. And so really laying that foundation for him early in life. And so people ask me all the time, well, why do you do what you do? Well, it's really about making sure, I tell people all the time, if you don't have a seat at the table, you are on the menu. And so making sure that that everyone is included in conversations, making sure that everyone has a seat at the table, and making sure that everyone feels welcome in all of our decision-making processes is definitely important to me. So that was a lot, but I'm sure there's some questions from that.
I just want to comment on the fact that you basically mentioned that Frederick has given you so much, invested so much in you, and that's what makes you go so hard to basically give right back. And that's something that takes a lot of dedication. That takes a different mindset because, sometimes people have a stigma about their hometown or whatever the case may be. But because of the support you got and the support that you've involved yourself with throughout your life, I think you've deserved and well earned the positions that you've received in life. And just relating it to like career paths and advice to our audience, it's like something about commitment, determination, and just following through with things may land you in positions and land you in places that are well deserved just by time commitment, just by consistency, versus maybe you already mentioned you may not have had the skill set at first for the religious coalition or whatever, the case manager, whatever, but just your dedication and potential that you showed to your employer or whoever it was at the time gave you that position, and you took charge of it, and now you're sitting at the top, or you sitting at a high position, and you just continue rolling and continue going, and that's honorable, number one, and it's also great advice for our audience to show how dedication and determination can take you places.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that statement. I love your story about how you tried to get elected in 2018, and things didn't work out, but in the conversations that we had, you said that you would not have been prepared for your second run as an elected official if you hadn't had that first one. And so, what Jarvis is saying is completely right. Like dedication, the time that you have to take, the lessons that you learn from your mistakes, well, maybe not mistakes, but even just your experiences is something that you can take, going forward. And sometimes you need those things before you can take that next step.
And I'll just add, talking about the 2018 race, and even just in life in general, one of the things that I've always learned is no matter what happens, you have to continue to show up. I think far too often people we shut down and we just give up because we didn't get it the first time around, right? And I tell people it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? And so we got to keep on showing up, keep on turning that wheel, because the more that we put in, the better the outcome is going to be on the back end. And so in 2018, I think we talked briefly about this a little bit, but, was not in a position of being ready to serve, but I was in a position of wanting to be elected. And to say that out loud is really, it's funny now, hindsight is 2020, right? But I wanted to be elected, but I don't think that I was capable of serving to the full capacity that I am now. So it took that loss for me to really go back, to do my homework, to do some more research, to do some more of that, of the groundwork to make sure that I was prepared for the seat in 2022. And again, in 2018, I could have just, given up on Frederick County. I could have said, I'm never running for office again. I don't want to do this. I thought I had all this support. Where's everybody when I needed them? Don't get me wrong. I cried a lot. Trust me. But there was a time where I had to pick up the mantle and figure out what was going to be next. And so it came back full circle to figuring out, how do I show up? How do I still be a voice? Because the promises that I made in that 2018 campaign, folks really believed in them. Folks relied on them. I believed in them. And so they still needed an advocate. Although I couldn't do it from the county council dais, I could still be a strong voice for the following that I had during that campaign. And so it was important to me to make sure that I just didn't leave people by the wayside, but I really did show up and continue to advocate for their interests and for my interests as well. So that is, if not anything, one of the big things, being your own self-advocate and then showing up not only for yourself, but for the community and those that support you is definitely important.
Yeah. I think there's just really so much that people can learn from you and your story. And that's partially why we had you on, because it's, your tenacity. Like, tenacity is something that's important in a career. Dedication, especially dedication in the era that we live in. A lot of people expect things to be instant, or they're like, I'm going to try it once and it's going to work. And some people don't realize that, they're going to run into some roadblocks. They're going to, have to get over some failures. And I think to hear it from someone who's been through, those things, those roadblocks, and has gotten through them, or, had to take a couple steps to get past a failure, it's inspiring. Yeah. I mean, it really is. It's a lesson to be learned that, sometimes you got to go through those things, and that there are examples in our community that we can look to. Yeah, you go ahead, Jarvis.
We wanted to dive into some of your past and some of the things that brought you up to this point, all the way back to your childhood even. If you could tell us, where did you get your inspiration from, and what inspired you as a child or as a young man, and how does that inspire you now? We mentioned in a pre-interview conversation how you went to Tuscarora High School, and also you were part of the Necktie Club, and these were things that installed procedure and protocol. Do you mind digging into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. At an early age, so my family is there are a lot of women in my family. And my great-grandparents, I wear them on my locket every day. Both passed in 2020. But my great-grandfather was the motivation from a young age of seeing a man really step up and provide for his family. And so, seeing the way that he carried himself, seeing the way that he provided for his family, just him being him, really made me want to be able to do that one day for my own family, right? And so there have been a number of folks who have played a role in who Kavonte is today. My family, my support system, my mother, my father, siblings. When I look at community, I think of folks like Alderman Bill Hall, who serves on the Board of Aldermen for the city of Frederick, one of a few black elected officials in the city. So to be able to have a relationship with him and for him to be a mentor for me definitely was helpful in my, not only just my political career, but in life as well. I also serve in a number of local organizations, Mountain City Lodge, number 382, the Elks, being one of those. And so seeing folks like Mr. Bernard Brown, who has been pillars in our community, and really, I've always been known to follow under older men, to soak up all the energy at a young age, soak up all the energy that they have. And so really have been committed to some of them in the examples that they have set. Another important one has been Gary Rollins. Like I said, in 2011, I started working in a funeral home. Had no idea what I was getting myself into. People ask me all the time, how did you end up there? I really don't know. I just started working there. But he has become really not only a mentor, but a father figure in so many ways in my life. And folks who have worked at the funeral home with me, who saw me from, 16, 17, up to 30, and I think in that age range is when you're really starting to mature and level out, right? And so to have strong men beside me to help me through that time was important. But you mentioned the Necktie Club. And so the Necktie Club is an organization run by Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And they started the Necktie Club in local high schools. First one was started at Frederick High, I believe, and then transitioned down into TJ and Tuscarora and other local high schools as well. But while at Tuscarora, I served in every office there was to serve in the Necktie Club. But what they really taught us was, number one, how to dress for success, how to show up and how to look professional, how to tie a necktie. We went through Robert's Rule of Order and protocol and procedure. They took us on college tours and really exposed us to a different way of life that some of the folks that were in the Necktie Club would have never got to see if it had not been for that organization. Mr. Earl Robbins, who was one of the founders, played a critical role in my high school years and even after. Still have a relationship with him to this day. But he took myself and my cousin along with him to different banquets and really to just expose us to things outside of Frederick County. I mean, it was tours to HBCUs, and really just a different thing that some of the kids would not have gotten to see. So the Necktie Club was definitely important for me. Now being out of high school and being elected, I get the opportunity to go back and talk to some of the local necktie clubs. So it's really like full circle. I really do appreciate it. I remember doing a couple of years back now, but they had the 25-year reunion of the Necktie Club, and it brought in all of the former and current. And so they have been at this for a while, and they do it well, but it's really teaching young men how to prepare for success. And so it's programs like the Necktie Club and, the I Believe in Me's and other mentoring programs that are really helping lay the foundation for young black males, and young men in general as well. Because again, sometimes that role model is missing, and so we're looking for it elsewhere. And so when there are organizations like the Necktie Club and others that can really help mold and shape us, I think is definitely important. So I credit the Necktie Club for my love for policy and procedure and Robert's Rule of Order.
That's obviously a lot of detail involved. I was part of the Necktie Club at Walkersville. I strongly advocated to bring it to Walkersville, as well as my mother, and just having support just from community. And if people are familiar with Barbara Thompson and Larry Thompson, those are like my adopted grandparents that actually led me to Frederick. And there's other role models stemming from that family I built and that community I built. I can relate to that story really heavily. And that community and that sense of community is what guided me back to Frederick after my Navy career, because the Necktie Clubs instilled some of that procedure and policy in me, and that craving to like dress for success and uniform and stuff like that. And then once I instilled all that in me outside of Frederick and, took my talents, I don't want to say take my talents elsewhere, but...
You're back. It's okay. You're back.
Once I did that for a while and came back, I had a lot more to offer. And now I'm a media specialist trying to get into county and city government. And that's just how my career path is moving, you know what I'm saying? And I can always bring it back to those days, whether it's Necktie Club, whether it's the wisdom I'm gaining from my grandpa Larry, who passed away, but rest in peace. Just men and women in the community that believed in me. And now we're finally getting organizations that can provide that for less fortunate children, and it'll continue for generations. And I want to play a part now too. I'm in position to play a part now. So that's awesome that you gain that from not only Necktie Club, but your community, and look at where it's taken you,
Yeah.
And
I tell people all the time, and my family says this often, it really does take a village to raise a child. And when we think about that, and sometimes we overthink it, right? But we're not where we are by happenstance. It took a lot of people rearing us and helping guide us along the way. And so there are countless, too many to name, that have played a significant role in my life thus far. And I know there's more along the way, but it really, even now as an adult, I still have a strong village that keeps me on track, and they correct me when I'm wrong, and they applaud when I do something right. And so you really need that support system and that village to keep you going and to make sure that you are leading correctly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't think I could say any of that better. I mean, really, it's like, mentors can provide so much that, and like you said, like kind of even just a village can provide so much that, say, the education system may not be able to, or if you end up going to a job, like you may not even get that enrichment there. But if you have that person that believes in you, or you have that group of people that is supporting you and has raised you up, I mean, those are the people that have really built you and that can continue to build you to be a better person and to be the person that you want to be. So like I said, couldn't have said it better myself. You guys really covered that well.
Now, we all know that you're an alumni of Frederick Community College, and we're actually here recording this podcast episode at FCC in the Fine Arts Building.
That is correct. We are in F112.
Hey.
Yep, that is the room.
So if anybody wants to come by one day and check out where we recorded this episode, we'll sign the bottom of the desk. But just to go into your FCC journey a little bit, we obviously talked before this interview, but I want our audience to kind of get a glimpse of some of the things that led to not only your 2018 run for election, or I don't know if you want to call it the ballot or run for office, but some of the interesting stories that came out of that journey at FCC and the student government, yeah, if you want to tap into that a little bit.
Of course, FCC. I love this place. It definitely was a home away from homes for me. Nothing against four-year institutions, but I am a strong proponent of community college. If you have an opportunity to attend a community college, you definitely, and I hope a lot of our listening audience already attend FCC, but it helps lay that foundation to prepare you for the next step of a four-year if you decide to take that route. So I would definitely encourage community college. But anyhow, when I started at FCC, came in, wet behind the ears, right, as they say, but really wanted to get involved. I came from high school, been heavily involved at the high school doing student government and class president and necktie club leadership. So I had all those leadership roles. I was like, man, I got to get to FCC and find something to do, right? I can't just go to class and leave. It's just not in my nature. Came to FCC, the elections for Student Government Association had actually already taken place. I was like, man, I missed it. What in the heck is going to happen now? Thankfully, someone had resigned and a position opened up as the Vice President of Administration. The Office of Student Engagement, I remember at the time, Melissa Main was the advisor for the Student Government Association. They put out an advertisement that they're looking for a Vice President of Administration. I decided to apply. Didn't know FCC, didn't know the Student Government Association, but I said, what the heck, we're going to take a shot. And so thankfully I was, I guess, elected or voted, I don't know how it went then, I was elected by the body to take over as the Vice President of Administration. As Vice President of Administration, I was able to, on behalf of the President, attend some of the board meetings and then different of the affinity groups that FCC had at the time. So in conjunction with faculty and staff, being able to have that student representative in those meetings as well was definitely a high note. Served in that role for a year. After that, became the president of the Student Government Association. As president of the Student Government Association, FCC was going through a search to hire their next president. So as the president, I was lucky enough to serve as the student representative on the Presidential Search Committee, which hired the then not the current president, but the previous president of the community college. So that was being a part of that big of an interview process was definitely eye-opening. But just to see FCC's commitment to students and making sure that we really had a student voice in the room, I can't thank the Board of Trustees and the administration enough for making sure that student voices were heard and were a part of that process. Not only were we a part of the process during the interviews, but once the president was hired, she still allowed student voices to be involved and engaged in the process, even at her investiture ceremony and then some other things that she was doing around the college. So I was glad to be that student representative and to serve in that position to be the voice for the student body. But in addition to Student Government Association, I actually did, work study at FCC, worked in the Multicultural Student Services Office. At the time, Chad Adero and Persis Bates, now Persis Johnson, were the director and assistant director of that office. And when I tell you that was like the central hub of FCC, everyone hung out in that office, and it was really the flavor, I'll use that word, the flavor of the office was just top notch, right? Anyone could come in. You were always heard. You always felt welcomed. And they really helped us talk through some of, our FCC decisions, right? Sometimes you get an advisor and the advisor tells you that this is what they think is best. But they really ask, what do you want to do? How do you see, what do you see life looking like in, 2 years or after FCC? And so they really had those conversations to prepare us for either four-year institutions or whatever folks decided to do next, employment, things like that. But we really had some tough and hard, honest conversations in that office. And I would never forget, some of the things that we did in the MSS office in my days at FCC. So, hats off to Persis and Chad and that team for the work that they did while I was here. So
yeah, you accomplished a lot at FCC, and I want that to be notarized for sure. But one of the biggest things that I think you mentioned, at least one of the biggest successes I've seen, was the ability to become the president of the Student Government Association. But the process of that had a lot to do with you missing the election, staying consistent, staying around. A resignation came up. you filled the position or got elected in the position, however which way you want to look at it, and then a year later becoming the president of the association and getting the chance to basically be a student ambassador or student. You mentioned it as like a student representative of not only some of the meetings, but even the new interview process for the new president of the school. I think when you align yourself with your passions and align yourself with your goals and stay consistent with the same organization, association, whatever the case may be, you will be surprised what doors open and also what opportunities come. That all stems from discovering your passion, like when you align yourself with that, those are the things that happen. And I really want the audience to understand that, like, not only, okay, FCC has a lot to offer, of course. That same story can be you to some degree in the near future. But as Kavonte did, he aligned himself with the passions and stayed consistent with them, because that's one of the things that takes you all the way to all the way to where you need to be in position to be a representative, like that's really interesting.
And another beautiful thing about FCC, I didn't meet my wife here, but me and my wife started dating at FCC. So it has been a long time coming, but it was in the halls of the H building, wasn't it? Yeah, where the cafe is. The student center building. Yeah. So yep. So I met my wife here. So I started dating my wife here. Let me correct that. And so FCC really means a lot to me. Yeah.
Hey, FCC could be a home.
As you said, a home away from home.
A home away from home.
Yeah. I think a really interesting trend in your career is just like your passion to serve, your need to serve, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be really beneficial for our listeners to know what are some ways that they can serve their community. What are some programs that welcome people who want to serve their community? Like you said a while back, like you ended up in the funeral home business, and you were like, I'm not really sure how I got here, but it's like it was that need to serve that I assume got you there. But what was some of the first ways you served your community, and how you first served your community apply to our listeners?
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that question. So I really think that you just have to find your niche and just become the best at it. For me, anytime that I saw a need, I tried to find a way to address it, even if I didn't know what I was doing was right. I remember there were it was a shooting at Frederick High School during a basketball game. I can remember it like it was yesterday. And then during that process, me and a friend, we started a Stop the Violence rally, right? And we did a march from, I want to say, Madison Street over to the band shell in Baker's Park. And it was just the passion to want to do something, right? So I'm always, where there's a need, I'm always willing to jump in and help. I would tell folks that find what drives you, find what you're passionate about. The shelter is always looking for volunteers. There are other nonprofits that are always looking for folks to serve. Our local animal shelter, right? Always looking for folks to volunteer. But you got to figure out what excites you, and where's your passion. And when you find that, I really think that you can find just about anywhere to serve in Frederick County. Whatever you're looking to do, I am sure there's a way for you to get involved. And then politics was my niche, right? And so serving on local campaigns. I remember when President Obama first ran for office, Democratic Central Committee at the time had a headquarters, and we were making phone calls to voters to make sure that they were voting for then Senator Barack Obama, right? I wasn't even old enough to vote in his first election, but I was at phone banks making phone calls because I was passionate about the candidate. And so when you find that passion or whatever excites you, then you find your way in. Fast forward, served on a number of other local campaigns, campaign manager for two of Alderman Derek Shackelford's campaigns, and working in those capacities really helped prepare me for my own campaign. But again, serving with the local political parties, whatever that may be, just figure out what excites you. And then, I'm a member of, again, I think I said it earlier, but I'm a member of Mountain City Lodge number 382, a local fraternal organization. And so through that organization, do a lot of community giving back to our community. Also, prior to becoming elected, served on a number of boards and commissions with the county and with the city. And so if I'm telling you, There are a lot of boards and commissions in the city and county, and we're always looking for volunteers to serve. So you can check out either the Frederick County government website or the City of Frederick government website to see some of those opportunities and find a way to get involved with your local boards and commissions. But like I said, there is definitely something out there for everybody, and there's definitely a way for you to be a part of the conversation and to raise your voice for the issues that are important to you. And I've also served on a number of local nonprofit boards, including I Believe in Me, City Youth Matrix, Eliminating the Achievement Gaps, just to name a few, but just finding that niche. And once you find that passion, you'll definitely start to see where you fit in and how you fit into some of these local organizations.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, serving is definitely. I've come to see opportunities, whether it's through the careers website on FCC. It will definitely show you a number of programs, associations, government agencies that are providing volunteer opportunities or even positions. And I've come to realize that nonprofit organizations, nonprofit communities can give opportunities. So some people would say, like, they don't want to do something without pay or whatever. And that's why it's important to probably find your niche so that you don't feel like you're working so much, you're enjoying yourself more. But in reality, a lot of these organizations give you opportunity, resume builders that can take you to the next level, or maybe even convince you to start your own organization or nonprofit, or new gain passion or new gain calling in your life. There's definitely more resources out there. Definitely tap in with the community, as Kavonte said, but also on the careers portion of the FCC frederick.edu/careers website, there's a number of organizations and career opportunities to find as well.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, that's a great resource for students and alum, or just people who are associated with Frederick Community College, to find careers and find places that they can serve their community.
Yeah, I'm curious about the Elks. I always pass that. Am I saying it correctly? Mm-hmm. The Elks it's a fraternal.
So we are a fraternal organization. We actually just celebrated our 100th anniversary in the same building on the same street for 100 years. And so we have definitely, we have in addition to the work that we do, we have an annual parade. There are a number of different scholarships for youth. Different community projects that we put on. Last week we had a youth summit behind the Elks in Mullinex Park. So there's always ways to get involved and to be a part of different fraternal organizations. We partner with the Masonic Lodge, the Frederick-Tonian Lodge of the Masons, which is right down the street from us. And so we work a lot with other community, other fraternal organizations, other community partners. Asbury United Methodist Church is down on the corner from us, and so Asbury does a block party every year. And so we definitely partner with them. And so you participate, coming out to Asbury Block Party, you'll see West All Saints Street will be full of different nonprofits and community groups that you can get involved in and learn more about. But yeah, so I've been, I think I've been a part of the Elks almost, it might be, I might be at 10 years, 10 or 12 years now. I can't really, I don't remember, but it's been a while. And I've served in a number of different capacities inside of the organization. But again, serving the lodge has been serving the community for well over 100 years now. So that's definitely
I actually might have interest in that. That I've seen it for a while. I just didn't know the details. I kind of asked that for my personal reasons, but it also helps for the audience who may be looking for some type of community fraternity type of situation. Yeah. Yeah,
and I would also encourage folks to reach out to the Office of Student Engagement here on campus. I believe Jeannie Winston-Muir is still there, but was definitely a huge support and help while I was at FCC. Again, we talk about the hub, right? And FCC being a hub, there are so many resources and there are so many people who have been on campus for a long time who know Frederick and who know the resources and who know the services. So if you don't ask the questions, you won't get the answers. So I definitely implore you to reach out to, career and support. I can't remember the office off the top of my head.
Well, now it's career and planning.
Yeah, so
Career and planning services.
Reach out to those offices. Reach out to the student engagement office, so that they can help guide you and let you know what the resources are available.
Also, talk to your peers too,
Yep.
because sometimes I feel like I wish I had somebody like Kavonte during my time in school, because he's just so knowledgeable of everything going on, and then he might lead me to the right place, and now that I have the knowledge, I can pass that on to a friend or something like that.
It's all about moving it forward. Yeah. I think it's super interesting to talk about all these tools that we have in the community. Then some people may not even know about them, and it's really powerful just to say that, hey, this is going on here, or this is a thing that you can go to. But I think outside of the community, we as people serve the community, or we as people live in the community, and so we've talked about all these community tools that we can go to or that we can work with. But what is the strongest personal tools, especially you personally, what is the strongest personal tool that you used in your career?
That is a great question. I would say that advocating for myself, I'll just be quite honest with you. You are your strongest self-advocate. And if we don't advocate for ourselves, no one's going to advocate for us, right? And so making sure that you know what you want, and be able to explain that, be able to express that, I think is very, very important, because far too often we don't get something because we don't ask for it. We have everything that we need and desire inside of us. It's just, how do we ignite it, right? How do we wake it up? And once we figure out how to ignite it, once we get that passion from the inside and bring it out, we're going to start to do wonders in our community. And so I think advocating for yourself, having that self-perseverance is definitely important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's this wonderful, I wonder if it's still up. I think it's a TED Talk with Nardwar, that funny guy that does those interviews. But he's saying something exactly like that, where it's like, you got to advocate for yourself. You got to ask, because if you ask, most of the time you'd be surprised with what people will say. They'll be like, oh yeah, I'll let you know this, or I can get you in on this. It's really just saying something, even if it's just hey, I'm interested, or can I ask a question? That can lead to a whole career. It's just a matter of doing it. It's a matter of advocating.
Yeah, people are afraid of that no, or that failure aspect of things. But 9 times out of 10, that one yes you get out of 10, requests or ask questions, whatever, is worth 10 times more than those 10 no's. You know what I'm saying? Worth 10 times more than the 10 no's that they were worth then. It's crazy how much advocating for yourself, asking questions, talking to the right people, and just, a part of that is holding yourself accountable, holding yourself to a higher standard, but a combination of that perseverance, holding yourself accountable, and just advocating for yourself and really going hard for yourself is going to take you all the way. And the less you do it, the counter of that is basically settling for less, and I wouldn't like to see anybody do that, because that's, from what I've seen and what I've seen people who live that life, it's kind of miserable. I rarely hear anything good coming out of that, besides a bunch of talking about nothing and how they wish they would have did this or wish they would have did that, a bunch of regrets. I wouldn't like to see that from anybody. And the opposite of that is advocating for yourself, persevering.
And I'll just say that, we talk about no one wants to fail, right? Nobody wants to lose. But it's how you get up from that. It's how you bounce back from that really determines your character, right? It's what do I do when nobody is looking? And so when you can figure those things out and be able to just walk in confidence of who you are. Yes, people are always gonna, we're always gonna have naysayers. We're always gonna have people that look down on us. Trust me, I'm an elected official. I know there's always gonna be someone that says you're doing it right and I'm doing it wrong. But we don't have room for that. There is so much work to be done in our community, in our country, right? There is so much stuff to do that we have to stop focusing on breaking each other down and who's right and who's wrong, that we just focus on solutions, and I think, again, a part of it is really knowing who you are as an individual and being confident in who you are. Because as has been already mentioned, we don't have time to settle. And I think that one thing about this generation I love, like we're always trying to find the new and the next thing, right? Nobody is settling for anything. It's amazing. It's like we're going to figure this out, and we're going to create this, and we're just going to figure out how we work together. But it's again, knowing your self-worth and being confident in who you are. And I tell people all the time, there's not too often that Kavonte takes no for an answer. Yes, I might digress, and we might agree to disagree, but if you want something, go after it. Go after it, and you're gonna take the good with the bad, and everything that comes in between, right? But at least you can say I gave it my all,
Right.
And that's what it's all about.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, well, one more thing I just want to say, we've talked about a lot of career-based and student-based and academic-based, mentorship-based. We talked about a lot of different logical big things in your career-based things. Just quickly, would you like to tell us anything that helps you with that work-life balance? Stuff that helps calm your brain down from some of these things, and you have a family. Who knows what all the things you may do to digress yourself?
So that's a big question, right? So being elected is a part-time job, and so I then have a full-time job as well. So there's that trying to find that work-life balance, not only just one job, but with multiple jobs, and still having a family and still trying to maintain. But for me at home, the decompression is just being able to go home to my wife and to my son and just kick back and relax. And my dog Deuce drives me crazy, but the family life is very important, and making sure that you always set aside time for that quality time with family is number one. I'm into cars, so I'm the president of a local car club, and so when it's warm outside, you'll probably see me at a car show. It's one of my ways to just kick back and relax. Golf, of course, by no stretch of the imagination am I a great golfer, but I can, I'm making contact with the ball, and so it keeps my mind off of things at times. And you just need those. You need to find those things and make sure that you're not always stuck, in the work realm of things. You got to be able to decompress and to enjoy life, right? I am still young, 30 years old, so still while. It's important to me to you got to have that balance, and you just got to figure out how to make the two work, make the two worlds collide and work together.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right.
That's
like
great examples.
Yeah, like a yin and yang. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up here, but before we go, this is our last question, hopefully. So if you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, just if it's a sentence or a couple, even just a word, what would it be? I
mean, one piece of advice I would give, or just a reminder, is that you are enough. You are enough. Don't let anyone tell you any different. Don't let anyone try to write your story. I think that we are in some unique times in our world, and I think it is important for us to reassure each other that we are all doing our part, and we all play a part in how people see our community. So again, continue to show up, continue to advocate for yourselves and for those around you, but never forget that you are enough.
Well said.
Well said.
Yeah, that's a great way to end it. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to have you on. It
was a great pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys. Again, congratulations on graduating from FCC and joining the ranks in the alumni field. So I appreciate y'all both.
Most definitely. Discovering your future has been fun. And,
yes, I've got to say it has been. Yeah.
And this was a great interview.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. We hope this episode has inspired you and given you direction in your career. We appreciate your continued support. If you have any questions or topic proposals, feel free to leave them in the comments. Don't forget to visit the FCC Career Services website at www.frederick.edu/careers for helpful information on discovering your career.